So essentially, this whole presentation, kind of my last year of ranting and writing and telling everybody I know about why you should unfriend people, started because a couple years ago, like everyone else, signed up for Facebook. And like a lot of other people, within a certain period of time, suddenly Facebook was different than it was a couple months ago. It wasn't the same experience. Something changed, and it's more people. The experience that you had at the beginning of joining Facebook is suddenly much different once there's a lot more people on there. So this presentation is about, as it says, how and why you should unfriend, unfollow, or just maintain your contacts. Know who's on there, know who those people are before you friend them, and if you don't know them, maybe you should think about unfriending them. And this whole thing is, it's not about my way of using Facebook is the right way to do it. It probably is. But I'm not going to say that. I'm just saying that if you're having the same experience I did, there are other people out there. This is more a support group for those who have too many friends on Facebook and are sick of it. Well, it just sounds bad when I say it out loud.
That's true.
So the first step is how. It's actually a question that people ask. Most of the visits to my website are still people searching for how to unfriend. It's kind of a strange thing. One assumes they're not talking about just the technical aspect of it, which is step 1, find them on the list. Step 2, there's a little X beside their name. And step 3, I think, is the most important part, is just get over it. They're unfriended. If they're offended by that, you could probably give the pretty rational explanation of, you know, my profile's private. It's a personal thing, and I keep my close friends on there. Or it's a new thing that I'm trying out. Odds are they're still going to be offended. Most of them probably won't notice. That's the interesting thing you'll find once you start unfriending large groups of people, is no one notices. In fact, you'll get friend requests from those same people who realize, oh, I'm not their friend, I should sign up. I should friend them. Which is just evidence in the first place that it was probably a good call to unfriend them. So, anybody want to give this a try?
That Facebook is to be used only for bringing your offline personal group of friends into an online presence. You know, that they actually, I remember there was an argument around that. I think it was going on TechCrunch when Robert Scoble brought that up, that that if you don't know this person in the real world, you shouldn't be friends with them on Facebook. And I think that that's a really interesting thing for them to say, given what Facebook allows you to do to connect with people that maybe you've only met once at a conference or whatever, but that you'd like to kind of...
That's old school Facebook,
yeah.
But now it's really changed a lot and it's evolving completely out of that, I think so.
When Twitter started, one of the things it introduced, a very subtle difference, but a very important one, and that's a friend is someone you have a mutual relationship. A follower is someone who's looking at your information, but you may not reciprocate that. I think it's a very important difference. When you talk about having friends in Facebook, it's a very mutual and not necessarily beneficially mutual relationship. You may have thousands of people following you for your photos, but do you really care what these thousands of people are doing? It's probably just, in a way, spam, or at worst, bacon to you.
Profile.
So maybe that's what the push needs to be able to make pages kind of that this is my acquaintance or somebody I respect versus a friend that you follow their profile, and there you've got, instead of just, you know, limited friend, you've got limited acquaintance friend.
Well, what is the problem with being personal to do with your business? Like
Depends on how people look at it and how transparent you want to be and how much of your personal life you want to be seen.
But you control that. I mean, when you're your own brand, as he is, it's the next step. For me, it's the next step. You meet on Twitter, you meet friends on Facebook. It lets you a little bit more into your...
The problem is most people I know a lot of people in like America that work in corporate environments, they're just simply not allowed to be public about their day-to-day life, unfortunately. Like, they can't use Twitter and Facebook and stuff, so it makes sense that those people would want very controlled Facebook environment that's private so that they can feel comfortable, you know, participating there. But yeah, I agree with you. Like, when I this morning, I twittered how cold it was and saying I was going to go for a swim in the harbor, and you know, I mean, I was joking, of course.
Really?
But that had nothing to do with my business at all. But people who know me through my business, it reminds them, and it actually does end up working in concert with the business too, because it sends people obviously
It
over.
makes you real.
I think a big thing that is really important that everyone in this room has to remember, if you are unfriending things and keeping your Facebook profile private, it's not private because people still have access to it, your friends have access to it, and people have access, like, I have friends that work for the RCMP, and you wouldn't believe the amount of arrests they use over Facebook all the time. People with private profiles who have a hidden profile picture, but when you're their friend, you see they're holding an unlicensed stolen firearm in their picture, or you know, they've got a bong or whatever, and the police are just like, this is great. And a bunch of my friends are in med school at Dal, and they had one of the people come in from Dal Tech Services and pull up information on them, and these people thought they had private profiles, but you can kind of work your way in to get the information. And they're showing pictures of, you know, these people that are going to be physicians, either smoking joints or drinking with their friends, or, you know, just in inappropriate situations in the med school, saying like, you know, you're becoming a doctor, you're becoming a brand, this is not appropriate. So regardless of who you are or how private your profile is, this is out there for the world to see. And you have to think, one, do I want my parents to see this? And two, do I want my employer to see this? And three, is it okay if the police are going to see this? Because if you're putting information up there that doesn't fall into those ranks, it's out there for the world to see. I mean, we all had little boxes or whatever we hid away in our houses that we didn't want our parents to see, and sure, they probably looked in it. But now you're putting all that little box of photos and letters or whatever else, you're putting it online, and people have access to it.
When I joined Facebook, I made a conscious decision to let anyone be my friend because I wasn't going to say anything on Facebook that I wouldn't say in my Gmail, that I wouldn't say virtually ever. And I mean, it's not a space where I'd say anything I wouldn't say in a boardroom. Like, it's public as far as I'm concerned.
That's a good attitude for you to have. But what do you do when one of your friends writes on your wall and says,
give them a call.
You know,
say,
oh my
hey,
God,
how's it going?
That was a really low-cut shirt that you had on, or
Yeah.
whatever. Like, you know, it's hard to control other people's actions, and you're in that world where you can't.
I don't disagree. I'm just,
But
you know,
this is the
I'm
point
a little
that-
contrary on this point.
One thing that I wanted
It's
to
a
bring
little
up
too
earlier
public.
was that the way that we portray ourselves online, like you're talking about image and things like that. Like I was in a situation once where I was the assistant to somebody who was making hiring decisions, and he decided to check people out on Facebook before he interviewed them. And one girl, her profile came up, and under interest she had drug culture, and under her photo she had a picture of what looked like her smoking a joint. And this guy's a really good guy, and he was like, Kathleen, what do I do with this information? You know, I looked at her page, I would never have found this stuff out otherwise. What do I do with this? And we had a really long discussion, like most of an afternoon, talking about, and one of the points that I made to him was just like, what if that girl goes to the library 13 nights out of 14? No one's going to be taking pictures of her at the library. No one's going to be tagging photos of her when she's studying. You know, what if this is the one time that she ever did this and someone took a picture? Like, it's not quite, it's a difficult thing to manage because the pictures of you that come up online are the times when you're out. They're not the times when you're sitting.
I'm an employer and I'm an employee, and as an employer, you look at character and capability, right? So capability is an interview on a resume. Character is a vibe you get from somebody, but if you get a little bit more of that vibe from somebody, whether it's on Facebook or whether it's just asking around, same thing, right? Especially in a small town like this. Before you hire somebody, you ask around. Sooner or later, someone's going to know. And if you ask 4 people and 3 said, great guy, man, you can't rely on him. Dude's never around, he's always out. Seriously.
Yeah.
And that's how you hire. Same thing, if I'm looking for a job.
Can you trust what's on Facebook?
Oh,
As much as you can trust the opinions
More
of
so-
somebody else.
Right.
Yeah,
Who
more
you
so
know
than
and
getting
trust.
a reference.
Right, but second point to that is, if somebody's really black and white on that, there was an article in the Herald in town here, it's like the fall or something, and it was about, you know, headhunters using Facebook to see whether you're a suitable candidate, and it was so black and white and it was so sensational. I don't know. Again, I've worked for a long time, but I've never known anybody to take one single piece of data and make a decision on an employee ever, right? It's about the mix. But at the same time, if the only thing that's out there about you is a whole, I think it was you said it a few minutes ago, if the only thing that's out there about you is you smoking a joint on the top of a building holding an upside down pentagram, well, you probably should find something.
Employee of the month.
Because